We've been together 37 years this Christmas. We're married 31 years.
On Wednesday, this past 2 days ago.
We've raised 2 children, 2 boys. Thank God. And I'm a retired public school teacher and public school principal for 35 years, and I had my own general contracting business for a long, long time, and here we are. I built this house, and now we're building the kids' houses.
We're doing the kids' houses. I was an educator for a lot of years and finally got a contract after 30 years. So I was a 5th grade teacher at Avon Grove for 10 years. Had a great time. But then retired, working at Giant as part-time, just to get some stories from the crazy people that live in our neighborhood.
So I come home with political stories, and she comes home with people stories.
Well, here's how it works.
Yeah.
What happened was that gentleman across the street, Brian, he became Sam Adams, and Mike became John Adams, because the township decided that DEP said that we had to have public sewers in our township at the cost of $67,000 per household to hook up public sewers for us. And we said, well, they said, what? So I became Abigail Adams, who helped, and we got the community together on this side of the town because we were the first phase, and we had to get people to say, we're not doing this. So it was democracy at its best. We had ended up with 300 and some folks
382
that were part of our database. We had petitions signed, and after we showed that there was better data that the DEP didn't know about, DEP never heard of this.
And so from that point, the 382 residents all said, why don't you run for office? So I ran for office. I won. I'm now 3.5. I'm in my 4th year as being supervisor of the township. There are 3 of us. We were able to keep our on-lot septic systems. We are the only township in the state of Pennsylvania that has an on-lot program in which the septic systems are
monitored,
tested, and the bottom line is after all what they wanted to do to us, we have 98.9% all of the septic systems are in excellent condition.
We had to play with all the DEP regulations, and you and Brian did the meetings, and you had a team.
Yeah, we had a team. I had a team. I had a team, and the team, we dotted I's, crossed T's, made sure we had meetings with DEP and their representatives, and that was my first initial exposure to DEP. That worked out well, but what came up, I'm very disappointed in. Of course, Mariner too.
Well, this time around, yeah.
Yeah. This pipeline became a problem when neighbors and residents who live on 352, which is over my left shoulder, they started saying, what is going on and what do we do and what are these easements? And I got involved. And as a representative for the people, I was able to put together 3 meetings for them in which Sunoco had their representatives, and Person, I think it was Persion was the company, plus their spokesperson, who was Don Zodolakowicz, and we called him Don Z.
Because you can't pronounce his name really well.
A good guy. We had the meetings. They explained what was going to go on. They said it was going to be horizontal directional drilling, or HDD, which really is fracking, because they're going across the terrain. They told us that they would start up at St. Simon and Jude Church, and they would end up down here at 926, which is Street Road, and they would drill down anywhere between 70 and 180 feet. A year and a half before that, they had refurbished the old pipes, a 12-inch and an 8-inch, and took care of those, and now they're going to put a 20-inch in, which is now occurring, and after that one, they're coming back to put a 16-inch pipe in. So we're going to have these two massive pipes that are going to be putting out propane, ethane, and butane at high pressure. They're ground huggers, liquids. And so my wife and I, Kathy and I, went to some meetings that DEP was holding and other communities were holding. So we went to Westchester University where there was a meeting. And we brought a letter with us stating that we were 450 feet away, and the rules according to Sunoco, or Mariner 2, were that it could only be 150 feet to save your well if there was going to be a contamination. I fought that, and I got up in front of the public and read my letter and had my well tested at my expense and sent it to their lawyer, Kurt Stambaugh, yes. Yeah. And they rejected it. We sought out 2 hydrogeologists and 3 well drillers. They all said the same thing. Your well will be contaminated.
They said make sure you have it tested before the drilling starts, about a month after they finish drilling, and then 6 months to a year after that, because you're still going to have issues with the wells.
We had to go seek an attorney, for which then we put our document on file. And that's how that all panned out. Being a elected supervisor and taking my constitutional oath to protect the health, safety, and the welfare of my residents, me being a resident also, I became very involved to the point where our township did not have an ordinance to deal with Sunoco or Mariner 2. We eventually, with our solicitor and the board and our planning commission, came up with an ordinance that basically is a land ordinance, because we are not permitted to do subsurface. Now, just this past week, July 17th, was our Board of Supervisors meeting in which we had to approve that land surface ordinance. I was a no vote, because that ordinance has no teeth, no meat to it. It does nothing to save the health, safety, and the welfare of the residents who live here. If there's a catastrophic occurrence from either one of these pipes, the 20 inches going in now and a 16-inch, the devastation would be just massive.
And to try to evacuate, you can't, because everybody's going to be calling on their cell phone, which is going to ignite the gases that are land huggers.
We held another meeting with the emergency Office of Emergency Services
in Chester County.
Chester County, and they sent their chief person out. And my question to them and the other two supervisors were, well, are you ready or are you not ready? They basically said, yes, we're ready. We can handle this. What we do is first we go to the fire chief, and the fire chief goes to the police officers.
We have no fire chief.
And I looked at the audience, I looked at my other supervisors, I said, there's no way they're ready. I believe that the hospitals would not be able to handle the casualties especially when they would range from young children to senior
Elderly.
citizens, elderly. And it would be catastrophic in that the buildings would be demolished. It would look like a war zone. The courts are not doing their job. DEP's not doing their job. Our state government is not doing their job. The PUC, our governor, our state representatives, the EPA of the federal government. They sold this thing that there's tremendous numbers of jobs. There's not tremendous
Not
numbers of
local
jobs,
jobs.
because where's it all going?
Well, from the Westchester Youth Consortium or the hearing, they said that we're from Kentucky, we're from West Virginia and Tennessee. We are the iron workers. We're the ones that are going to do all the pipeline. Well, where's the Westchester and the Pennsylvania?
And of course, it's all going to go to Marcus Hook, which is going to bring jobs. They're shipping the propane, ethane, and butane to Scotland to make plastic. So they're using up Pennsylvania natural gases, liquid or whatever, and what are we getting from it?
Nothing.
Nothing. But I have residents whose property values are going to go down and who are going to be in fear for what's going to happen. As I am.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do about it. Being an elected official and seeing that there's so many roadblocks.
Regulations. Legal.
Our justices are ruling against us every time there's been a case that goes in. Funny that you say that. I was driving to pick up 12 80-pound bags of concrete this morning, and I was driving down 352 looking at all this construction for this pipe. I'm saying, how do we stop this? And guess what my answer was? Coming from the 70s. Protest, get people out on the street,